And welcome back to another edition of No Holden Back alongside my son, Luke Holden. My name is Ben Holden. Great to have you with us. And we're joined now, happy to be joined by the head coach of the Army Black Knights, Jeff Monken. Jeff, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. I hope you guys are healthy and well also.
Yeah, we're doing good. Family, everything's good with the family on that front?
They're good. A little tired of going to the schoolhouse right here in the same place they eat breakfast and brush their teeth and all that stuff. It's different doing all your business out of your home, but they're managing. They're managing much better than I am.
When you're a coach, you want to be out there coaching, right?
No doubt about it.
So take us back, if you can, when there had to have been a moment when you had to get your team together, whether it was like this or in person, when you had to tell them about no spring football.
We've had some meetings as this thing's been going on, and when they got word that we weren't going to bring them back after spring break, I sent them a message. We've got a platform to be able to communicate with those guys, either with a text message of sorts, or in a platform like this where we can see them all and talk to them all. But I really just sent word that there was going to be a delay. We didn't know what spring was going to look like yet, but we'd keep them informed. And then when we got word as time went on that there wasn't going to be spring ball, we of course got everybody together and told them, and I know they were disappointed. We acknowledged that, but just told them what we can do is control our attitude and effort. So let's have a great attitude about what we're doing and put as much into it as we can, so that when they do say go, we can press the gas pedal, and we're the most prepared team in the country when the time comes. So our guys have done a good job, and I know that coaches all around the country are using the technology that we have to be able to meet with their players and to interact with them, and we've done the same. So we have occasional meetings. We don't try to inundate them with too much. They got a lot of challenges just with their academic regimen here. They have to attend class every day and be on the call with the professors, and attendance is taken, and so it's a little bit like being at school, but the challenge of them being at their own homes and sitting at their own kitchen tables or in their own bedrooms, that's hard. So we're not trying to put too much on them, but we know they want to engage in football. They love the game as we do, and I think they enjoy talking football and really just getting a chance to interact with their teammates and coaches.
And how are you keeping in touch with your coaches too, and still staying in contact with them? And how does your preparation kind of change going into this next season coming up?
Typically, we meet every morning as a staff when we're here on campus. But with the circumstances as they are, I've really cut us to a couple of staff meetings a week. Not necessarily a traditional time. We just call a staff meeting, and everybody's able to call in on Zoom, and we talk through the business of the program like we normally do, and then we meet offensively and defensively almost daily. Really, our defensive staff, we've got so many new members on our staff on defense. They're spending a lot of time just talking through all of the fronts and coverages and adjustments, and I think it's been really good for them to be able to spend that time and talk through every call and every check, and that's going to be valuable for them as a staff. The tough thing is we don't get to do that with the players on the field. It's a little difficult when there's new terminology and a new staff, and you're doing it all via a phone or an iPad. They're going to have to do it. When they do it, they'll understand it. It's really hard for the players, but been valuable for our defense. Offensively, we've gotten a lot done with installation with our players. That's certainly for all these guys coming back. Pretty much review. Now we got some young guys, some freshmen who haven't played in games and spent most of the year on the scout team, so they're kind of getting their memories refreshed from preseason camp. But our coaches are doing a good job, and spend time, as I said, almost daily because we want to do the best job for our players that we can when they return.
Army head coach Jeff Monken joining us from along the banks of the Hudson, as I like to say on the broadcast, in his home. And talk about those defensive changes you made and the switches and changes that you made to the defensive side of the ball, if you don't mind, Jeff.
Nate Woody's now our defensive coordinator. Nate was at the University of Michigan last year. He happened to be Paul Johnson's defensive coordinator in Paul's last season at Georgia Tech. But Nate and I had squared off against each other at a couple of different schools. When I was the head coach at Georgia Southern, he was the defensive coordinator at Wofford, and then went to Appalachian State. And while I was still at Georgia Southern, so we had a chance to kind of tangle when we were in the Southern Conference. And he's an outstanding coach. His teams have always played great defense. And ironically, I interviewed Nate when I took the Georgia Southern job. I was an assistant at Georgia Tech. He came over to Atlanta, was at Wofford at the time, and I interviewed him, and I didn't offer him a job. I hired another coach. And then when I took the job at Army 6 years ago, I interviewed him, and I didn't hire him then either. And and this time I didn't interview him. I just called him and said, Nate, you want the job? He's a terrific coach. And
Yeah.
you know, I knew I was going to hire him sometime. He's really impressive. He's really smart. What I've learned about him that I didn't know is he just does a tremendous job of teaching the staff the defense and allowing coaches to coach in their own way, but make it fit the system and the scheme. And he's just doing a great job sitting in the meetings with him and listening to him talk to each assistant and asking them to talk through each call, fundamentals and techniques down to minute detail. Just really impressed with him. So excited about him. Greg Gasparotto, who came from Appalachian State, has a history with Nate. Sheil Wood, who was at Georgia State, was an assistant with Nate at Wofford, was the defensive coordinator at Wofford at one point. So they've all got a history together. And then Tank Wright, who's coaching the defensive line, was at Michigan with Nate a year ago. So we still got some guys that have been on the staff here with us almost the whole time we've been here. John Luce is our assistant head coach and going to coach the outside linebackers. And Daryl Dixon, who's just a tremendous football coach, coaching our corners. So they're back and glad to have those guys on board with us.
So to talk real quick just about some of your seniors that are moving on to their service commitments, can you kind of give us some of your favorite memories about that senior class and what they mean to you?
This senior class has been a part of some really big victories, and I think that's going to be a great memory for those guys to win a bowl game their freshman year and be a part of that team that kind of got things turned in 2016, and then and winning 2 more bowl games in a row and 2 Commander-in-Chief's trophies. They were a part of some really big victories. They were led by some outstanding guys ahead of them, and just their experience here. I hope they've learned a lot, and they're going to be able to carry that out into the Army and be good leaders for their soldiers and the units that they're in charge of.
Great men. And I tell Luke about him all the time. When I come back all the years I've been doing games there, I tell him, man, I met this guy. And he knows a lot of them by name, just from watching games and hearing his dad talk about him. On the other side of that, the draft is coming up Thursday night. Quickly, before I hit you on that question, are you surprised that Gronkowski is back with Tom Brady?
Well, that just must be a match made in heaven. It's amazing. So much talk about Tom Brady and what would happen with him. Would he be with the Patriots? Would he move on to another team? And then the discussion about Gronk. It's just remarkable to me that they both ended up in the same place. And I'm sure there were a lot of teams working very hard for both of those guys, and for one team to get both of them is pretty remarkable. So it'd be interesting to see how that affects that organization I've been talking to recruits throughout this time. We get a chance to talk to them quite a bit. But one of the things with the draft coming up, I've been talking to some of these guys about their favorite team, and several guys up here in the Northeast, they're Patriots fans, and
Yeah.
I've told them I know that they've lost some good players. Certainly, losing Tom Brady's going to make a difference, but that Belichick's pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins another Super Bowl. That guy just seems to find a way.
Well, he picked up Cam Newton, so he's got a much different type of quarterback than he had in Tom Brady for the last 20 years. So
Yeah,
I'm with
he'll
you.
make it work.
Yeah, how do you count him out? I mean, when you win that much, man, it's I don't care what sport it is, right?
That's a fact.
So tying that into the draft, there's 3 players that were on the team last year, and they were all big players in their careers: Elijah Riley, Cole Christensen, and Connor Slumpka. Those guys have a shot to get drafted. If they do, where do you see those guys fitting in at the next level, Jeff?
I'm just excited for the opportunity that they've got. I don't know if any of them will get drafted. All of them may get drafted.
Right.
I hope that all 3 of them have an opportunity to get in a camp and prove themselves. Elijah did so many things for us. He played a lot of different positions and was able to do things at that corner position that are probably a pretty unique skill set. He's a very physical guy, a big guy, tough, can tackle. We used him to rush the passer a lot from his corner position. He's covered inside receivers and outside receivers. Can press, can play off, has good ball skills. So I think there's a market for that guy in the NFL. I don't know teams well enough to say what teams I think he's the best fit, but I think he will be a really good special teams player immediately. He played a lot of special teams for us, and from his freshman year, and we continue to play him on special teams just because he added so much value. He can return punts, he can block punts, he can cover kicks. I just think he's got a chance to do a lot of different things, and probably for roster value, I think a lot of teams would probably find him to be a guy they'd be interested in. Cole Christensen is another guy who runs so well, can play on special teams, change direction, really well built physically. He's going to test great for any team that works him out, and really smart. So he's a fast learner, and I think that if a team gets him in camp, he's gonna be able to execute the assignments and the schemes pretty quickly, and that should help him. Those positions, man, it's hard to make a team. There's so many really good players that are built like that. Play linebacker at inside or outside linebacker, and teams find those guys and develop them. And he's just a really smart kid, and I think will impress people when he gets in the camp. And Connor Slumpka is unique. There's not many true fullbacks out there. People in college football aren't playing with them, and the NFL plays with more guys like that than college football. And so I think there's some marketability for Connor, just that he's got a unique build, body type, skill set for the NFL, and hopefully there'll be a team that feels like he's right for them. He's got good hands, good feet, he's strong, and I'll be interested to see just what happens with all 3 of those guys.
Yeah, we're all pulling for him. You know that. You know my affection for your program and what you guys have done and continue to do. And last I heard about Connor, and I mentioned this a few times the last couple of years on the air, he was going to go play at Ohio State for Nick Myers in lacrosse. I get a text from his dad after the season. He goes, "Hey, I hope you get a couple of our games because Connor's going to be playing." I was looking forward to seeing him play, man. But obviously he changed his path there a little bit, and good for him.
He did, and Joe Alberisi, our lacrosse coach, came to me about Connor at one point and said, "Hey, would you mind if I talked to him about coming and being our face-off guy?" I said, "No, I think it'd be fantastic." And Connor just didn't want to do it. He had his focus on football, and so he didn't get a chance to do that. He did, I think, one game in the prep school when he was there, his first year up here on the banks of the Hudson in the Army Navy lacrosse prep lacrosse game. I think went out there and faced off for the game, and of course all the football players are sitting in the stands going bananas. But he's a really talented guy, and that the right team, I think, will recognize that, and hopefully he'll get a shot.
Yeah, we hope so too. My son was an LSM, so he was one of those wing guys. You imagine, you know how big he is.
Oh yeah.
Imagine him taking. He would have been virtually unstoppable as a face-off guy. I think
definitely.
So, a lot of fun too. Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, so I want to kind of take it back here a little bit. You know, you coached at Georgia Southern for a long time and a great career there. And I want to kind of ask you, you know, like when you got the call from Army, how unique of a coaching position is this for you to be at right now, coaching at West Point and coaching great men that you get to talk to every single day?
I was an assistant for Coach Johnson for 13 years, and we worked at 3 different schools. One of those was our rival down in Maryland. And the experience that I had there, I think, really prepared me for the opportunity at Army. I think this is a very difficult job. I think it would be a much more difficult job for someone who didn't have any academy coaching experience. And that academy coaching experience prepared me for this opportunity, the expectations of I guess myself, and coming into this situation, just what it was going to look like. And I think every college program, every situation for a head coach is a little bit unique. It's all got its pieces that make it special and different, but an academy is really different, and we're really different from the other academies. But we're more similar to the school I coached at down in Maryland than we are anybody else in the country, and I think it helped. It was flattering to get the call. I know that there was interest because of the success that Coach Johnson had there in Annapolis, that they really had a desire to hire someone who had a tie to Paul Johnson. And really I tried to take as much as I could from the blueprint that he laid out there for us, that we won with. He turned the program around. Paul Johnson's a remarkable football coach, and what he did there with that program is incredible, and positioned them for the success that they've continued to have. And Kenny's done a great job down there, and it's never been better. But that was really the hope that we had here, that we would take that same plan and implement it. And I think a lot of people had doubts that we could get it done. But a lot of people had doubts about Paul Johnson getting it done, and he did it. And I think I was just excited for the opportunity to show people that you could do it. And we had a great staff, and they went to work, and quietly behind the scenes, without winning a lot of football games, we made progress early in recruiting and building our roster, and just improving the toughness and the execution of the fundamentals of what it takes to win a game, or win in college football, win a game and be a winning program. So it was different. I was very comfortable at Georgia Southern. I love that community. I love that school, and I still do. But this was a tremendous opportunity for me, both professionally but also personally. And I never served in the military, but I feel like this is my opportunity to serve. And I knew that my influence as a coach, regardless of where I was coaching, was important to the young men and the people that were part of the program. But here, as the coach at Army, as the head coach at Army, and the impact that I have on this program as a whole, our coaches, every position, every young man, and everybody at this academy. I think that the impact that I can have as a leader here at the world's best leadership school, it's going to carry well beyond our locker room. And the leadership that our players learned from us as coaches, learned from me as their head coach in their time here at West Point, they're going to carry that out into the Army as they lead soldiers and lead units. And that was something that really appealed to me, that my leadership, my example would go well beyond our locker room into the United States Army, to their families, and in a way, it's my opportunity to serve. So it makes me incredibly proud to be here and be a part of this program and a part of this great academy. And so we got a job to do. We got to win games, and we're intended to do that this fall. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope football comes soon.
You got goosebumps?
Yeah, I do. That was great. Yeah.
I mean, to me, Jeff, and I've heard you talk about this over the years, obviously, and I get goosebumps every time.
Yep.
You know, we've had a lot of different analysts you're in our time together there, and even before, you know, you were the head coach there, and I've heard it many times. And, you know, to me, it's such a job with such prestige about the job you have. To think of the men that were there and have done it, and to be in an academy, I mean, that has to be another sense of pride as well, I would think, right?
Oh, no question. And there's a tremendous sense of responsibility that you feel as a coach at West Point. Just knowing that the example that we set as leaders and how we respond to things, whether it's success, failure, adversity, anything comes our way. The way that we respond as coaches is such an example to these young men and women. We feel that sense of responsibility. It's our duty to educate, train, and inspire these young men and women to be leaders that are going to serve our nation. So that's something we take very seriously, and so each day that's kind of how we attack our job. But no, the job is difficult. It's not easy, but there's some things about it that make it really special. And one of those things is being a part of the history and tradition of West Point. 218 years of preparing some of the world's greatest leaders is pretty incredible to be a part of that. And to be in a leadership position at the best leadership school in the world is really an honor and a privilege. And you know, there's some trophies and plaques and those kinds of things on the walls of the building at the Kimsey Center at Mikey Stadium, and it's unbelievable if you take the time and start to read the names that are on the wall and the people that you're joining. It's pretty humbling. My uncle Bill, my dad was my high school coach, and
right.
He and all four of his brothers were high school coaches. My uncle Bill, who's the youngest of those brothers, called my dad when I got this job, and he said, "Does he know who used to coach at that school?" And
no pressure, right?
I was well aware, but really, you go up there and you when you walk through our Hall of Fame into our offices past the 3 Heisman trophies, there's Red Blake and Paul Dietzel and Vince Lombardi, and I mean, it's pretty incredible.
It's awesome. It's really cool. I got to get him there one of these days. I haven't had him.
Not to mention Patton and MacArthur and Eisenhower. You know, all those guys. There's some real pressure.
Yeah, right. No, I like I said, I feel like I failed as a parent. I brought him to the Air Force game a couple years ago, but I got to get him along the banks of the Hudson, man. One of these days, this year, you know.
You said it.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you know, you've rebuilt your program practically from the ground up when you got in. Can you kind of take us through that, and what were some of the most challenging aspects of rebuilding this program?
I think the most difficult thing to change in any organization that's not successful is attitude. And we needed to change that more than anything before we could win a football game or start to move in the right direction. The attitude about winning, about our chances to win, how we prepare to win, the mental toughness and the self-discipline that it takes. So we worked on that first, and we worked on that with the players that were here, and we put them through some hard stuff. We wanted to find out really who it mattered to. And, football's fun, and it's fun to be a part of a team, and, get all the things that you get when you're a part of a team. And it's different when you're a part of a team that has expectations and demands placed on that team to meet those expectations. It becomes a lot harder. You're held responsible and accountable, and that's not for everybody, and that's okay. It's hard. Football's a hard game. Winning's hard. So we had to do some hard things, and so we started with that. We recruited our butts off, and we're not going into the same living rooms as Dabo Sweeney and Nick Saban and guys like that. There's a pool of prospects for us for West Point, and we dove into that pool of prospects and just worked as hard as we could to get the very best players and the right people for West Point. And ultimately, we battle the other academies more than we battle anybody else for those prospects. And we knew we had to win some of those head-to-head battles. So we worked really hard at that. And we set an expectation for who we wanted to be as a program. And if we were going to meet those expectations, then we had to hold everybody to the standards that were going to get us there. So there's a saying that high expectations will not survive low standards. So if you got high expectations, then you got to have really high standards. And so we set high standards for our team and our staff, and I try to set very high standards for myself in terms of my own attitude and effort. And we just attacked it, and we got better. And frankly, just had some things go our way, and you need to have that happen sometimes. But we've had some hard-fought, tough-earned victories along the way. And in that stretch from 2016 to 2018, we played 19 one-score games, and we won 14 of them. And that you're having to battle tough when you're winning close games like that. That's the thing we didn't do very well this past year. We were 1-5 in one-score games, and it made all the difference in our season.
Yeah, no question about it. And for the broadcast, it's a heck of a lot of fun, man, because I was on the call many of those games. For you, what's it like for you, man, in those moments? You're down there. I mean, our job's easy. I've always said, I know a lot of coaches, obviously you're on that list at a high level. What's it like when you're in those moments for you down there on the sidelines, Jeff? Take us inside there a little bit.
It's both thrilling and agonizing. Because it's coming down to one play sometimes, one drive, one play. But again, there's nothing more thrilling than winning a game where you got to win it in the fourth quarter, or you got to win it on the last drive, and they are so much fun. The celebrations after games like that are so much more intense and enjoyable, because you had to battle to the end and found a way. And that's what's made me really proud of this team. We've found a way to win games like that more often than not. And again, that's kind of probably who we are as a program. We're not going to be a team that's just blowing people out all the time. We're going to have to play some tight games, and it has a lot to do with why we coach our team the way we do, why we run the offense that we run, a ball control offense, and keep it away from the other team. That's been key to our success. Our defense playing far fewer snaps than most teams are accustomed to. And it's just a formula for winning football games. And so we're going to have some close ones. Hopefully we'll just find a way to win them.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to talk about fullbacks a little bit. I know this will make my buddy Drinkall and Brent Davis happy, and you too, obviously. So before I pull out a prop here, you had, correct me if I'm wrong, but your first year in 14, you had Larry Dixon, right?
Yes.
What do you
Good
remember?
player.
What's that?
Good player.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you remember about Larry? What stands out about Larry?
He was a really tough runner inside the box. He could run through tackles. Um, he had a quick start, so he'd get to the line of scrimmage very quickly, um, and got extra yards. He always seemed like he was falling forward. He didn't get knocked backwards very often. He didn't have the great breakaway speed, so when he bust out on a trap play, he had a tough time taking it the distance, and that was probably the only thing that kept him from being a really elite fullback in this offense.
All right. So I remember all those things too. I remember him being just a guy that was always smiling. It didn't matter what the situation was. You guys could have lost the week before by 3 touchdowns, and he would come in, not necessarily with you, but maybe in the prior years. And he'd come into meetings and he'd be smiling, he'd be happy, he'd be positive. And I also remember this, if you can see that.
Yeah.
He gave me that. You know the story about that, right?
No, I don't.
He carried this with him. Not this one, but he carried the Constitution in his pocket every day.
That only at West Point. There's
Right,
nobody
exactly.
else in the world doing that.
Right. And then he came back a couple of weeks later. We had him in another meeting. He said, Benny, I got something for you. So he gave me this. So that's the first of a couple props I have. So that's why I want to touch on Larry.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. How is Brent, since I mentioned Brent and Drinkall? Drinkall's in a different spot now this year, right? On the offensive side, you had a couple of shifts there.
He is. Matt's coaching our tight ends, and he's such a smart football coach. I mean, what he did at Kansas Wesleyan as the head coach, and the numbers that they put up offensively, what an impressive guy, and what an impressive job he did. And he took over a program that had about 30 players in the program when he got there, and I think they lost, I don't know, 2 or 3 games in the last 2 or 3 years he was there. He did a great job. Brent's doing really good, and we, as I said, we meet as a staff and preparing the players for the first opportunity to get back out there. But he's doing good, and really trying to evaluate our team, who our key players are going to be, and building a plan for this year that fits those guys. So he's done a great job for us here at West Point, and we need him to do a great job this year.
Yeah. All right. So a couple more props I want to get to. So I know Rich DeMarco, the radio voice of Army football.
Yeah.
You guys recently did a great guy. I love him and Dean and all the radio gang. We always see each other on game day, all that, obviously. But he did a top 10. How was that compiled? Did you and him compile it, or did Rich compile it?
Oh, I didn't have anything to do with it. All I've been doing is retweeting it. He, I think he comes up with it and sends it out, and the Army football Twitter sends it out. So I just retweet it, and it's been fun. There's been great memories to watch those.
All right, so I'm going to give you one here. I'm going to give you a flashback. I got a couple of them. These are items, by the way, that are hanging in this is my living room, basically. And these 2 things I'm going to show you I have 2 other ones. My first game, I called an Army. Danny Wild's great picture of the team running out with a flag. He was laying down, got me a great shot of that. And when they beat Boston College, I want to say that was Rich's second year, Rich
Nice.
Ellison. But this one is a classic. Remember that? We brought
I remember it.
My girlfriend made copies for all of us. What stands out about that game and that win over Eastern Michigan?
It was just an unbelievable finish. You remember.
Oh, yeah.
I thought they did a terrific job defending us. They did a really nice job on defense that day. We scored to take the lead, and they took it back down and scored a touchdown. And with just seconds remaining, I guess, I can't remember how much time was left on the clock.
I think it was under 30, Jeff. I think
They
it was,
they went for two,
yeah.
and we were in a defensive call, and they made a check at the line of scrimmage, and we could see that they were changing the call. We changed ours, and they ran, of all things, they ran speed option to the boundary, to the weak side. And they're a team that they're a throwing football team, and not under center very often. They run the speed option play, and James Gibson, who is probably he's probably got a coverage responsibility. I don't remember the call exactly, but he saw it coming and just went as fast as he could at the pitch back and threw his body in there. And the guy went straight up in the air, and he came down, and we couldn't see it. There's just legs in the way from the sideline. But, of course, the replay's there, and you get a chance to see the replay, and they go to the camera, and everybody's biting their nails. And, I mean, that was just a thrill to see that guy come up short. It was a great play. Had he been just a split second later than he was on pulling the trigger, that kid scores and we lose that game, and it's not the same season. But that year was kind of a whole string of wins like that, and we kept finding a way, and that was one of those. Really, what an incredible day. And I was so excited that we won, and I think to celebrate those victories, it really should go beyond our locker room. The Corps cadets is over there, and they should share in the excitement. And I guess when I got over there, I really wanted to get them cranked up and excited. And I found that there was I was looking for something, so I grabbed a chair and raised it up over my head. And then I think after that, I found the cheerleading signs that were on the ground. And I was looking for the one that said noise, and I it just so happened it was laying right there, and I grabbed that and I held that up, and it was just a great celebration. And at West Point, everybody should share in that. We are an extension of the Corps Cadets. We play for that crowd that's over there behind the other team's bench, wearing the same colors as us, and so. It's always a lot of fun to go over there and celebrate with the Corps after a victory.
All right, I got one more. I'm going to need a little help from my son here to hold this one up. Yeah. I believe this was on the list too, so I'm going to have to hold it in a little close. You'll see on the credential though.
So that's a scorecard.
Yep. That's a 2 deep, flip card from Yankee Stadium.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You guys signed it for me. A bunch of you guys signed it. That's my credential in there. That was Kevin and O'Connell and I on the call of that. What do you remember from that baby?
Man, what a thrill to play in that stadium, number one.
Yep.
To dress in that locker room. So we got to dress in the Yankees locker room.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Okay. That's awesome.
So we entered through the dugout, and you go down the steps, and there's a batting cage there, and then you go back up the steps into the clubhouse area. Beautiful clubhouse. One of our players is dressing in Derek Jeter's locker. I mean, it was pretty awesome. Wow. The facilities are incredible. You go back to the training room, and there's an old scale in the training room, just an old, rusty, turn of the century scale. And there's a picture right next to it or above it of Babe Ruth standing on a scale.
Oh,
and it's the same scale. So Babe Ruth is in a picture getting his weight taken on the scale, and the scale's still there in the training room. Pretty neat. So just the whole history of that organization and being so close to it was pretty incredible. But to play in that stadium and that night was just a beautiful, crisp fall night. We had a team that really we were kind of up and down all year. We played really hard and really tough and really well at times. And sometimes we just stunk. But I thought we were getting better. And that night we played pretty well. And we were playing UConn, they were a team much like us. They were a rebuilding program, and it was a back and forth game. I remember early on, we had a field goal opportunity and we called a fake, and we didn't score on it, but we did get a first down. It set up a touchdown, which was a key play in the game. And then at the end, they score, and they're kicking an onside kick. And so we send the hands team out there, and we feel like we got everybody accounted for. And actually, I think took a timeout and talked about it again. And on the onside kick, a guy ran right by one of our guys that we had a blocker for him. He just didn't take a very good angle. And I'll tell you, it's not an easy play. It looks a lot easier than it is. And the ball took a wacky bounce, and A.J. Shure had it in his hands. But unfortunately, it kind of rattled around. They got the ball, and they had a chance to mount a final drive to either tie the game up or win it. And they took it right down the field, and were in scoring position. And Chris Carnegie stepped in front of that pass in the end zone, and House called it. And I mean, what a thrill! Our whole team just went racing down the sideline, and the official on our sideline, who I've known for many years, ACC official, he throws a 15-yard flag for celebration, and he comes back down, and so after the play's done, and he says, "Coach, I just had to throw a flag. There's just too many of them." I said, "Oh, Jim, it was well worth it, man. That was a lot of fun. You should have thrown the flag. We deserved it." But it's just a great, thrilling victory, and one of those that really sparked some confidence in our team, and some belief that we can win games like that. We can win close ones, and we can find a way. So I thought it was a key moment, at least in the build up to the success that we've had.
Certainly a big building block, no doubt about it, for your program. And I remember all that and calling the play. And so Brent was in the suite next to us. So Kevin and I were basically in the right field corner, which synced up with the way the field was. We were pretty much, we were near midfield. We were close, maybe on the 40. And BD's over there just fist pumping away, man. And I was like, yeah. And I mean, I'm supposed to be neutral. I get it, but, I can't help it, So I've gotten to know all you guys and been so proud to have been doing
Hey, we know you're a homer. That's why that's why we're keeping you around.
Well, I get it. I appreciate that. You got anything else for Coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last thing I want to ask you, Coach, the Commander-in-Chief Trophy, I personally think it's one of the most unique trophies in college football. You're battling against Navy and Air Force every single year for it. Can you take us through how important it is to win that trophy for your program every year?
It's a source of pride for our team, for sure, but it's a source of pride for this entire academy and the United States Army. To have those bragging rights to be able to claim Service Academy dominance is really important. I think it's one of the most coveted trophies in all of sports, and there's some big ones out there. To win the Super Bowl, to win the Indianapolis 500, to win the national championship in anything is big. But the rivalry and how deep seated this rivalry is. I can't describe the elation and the pride that's in the hearts and minds of everybody that's a part of it when you win the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. So it was a thrill for us. We're absolutely pissed off that it's not here at West Point anymore, and we're going to do everything we can to get it back. So it's an awfully important trophy to us. There's others out there, but I don't know that there's one that means more to anybody than this one means to us.
No. Jeff, can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day. We know you guys are still working and trying to prepare. We all hope for a college football season. So thanks for doing this, and let my son sit in too. So it's I want to ask you that too. For me, I'll just say this first. This has been one positive for me of many to be able to start doing this stuff with my son. What are some positives, maybe whether it's with your family, whether it's with football or both? What are some positives you've taken out of this whole time? Because I know your nature is positive.
We're just going to appreciate the game that much more. And I've really appreciated the opportunity to be around my family and see what my wife does here for my family. And I leave early in the morning and I come home after practice and eat dinner at the kitchen counter and
Back to work.
And it just because that's the life of a college football coach, especially during the season, and to see what she does for our family and especially for my girls really makes me appreciate my family and my wife and you realize that there's probably a whole lot more that we could do at home with our families around than we make time for. And that's likely not just in college football, but for people in professions, no matter what it is, that we could take more time for our families. And I think it's made me realize that. But it's also given me a great appreciation for football and how much I enjoy our players and being out there on the field and the passion that I have for coaching, not just all the other stuff, but for being out there and being on the field and having a whistle around my neck and going to that stadium and really just celebrating the greatest game in the world. So I can't wait for college football. I'm confident we're going to have a season at some point. That it's too much a part of our culture for us to not try as hard as we can to have a season. So hopefully everybody else feels the same way, and we'll get to it here pretty soon. So sure hope everybody's safe and healthy, and that we get America and the rest of the world back on our feet and get this virus the heck out of our way so we can get on with it.
We feel the same way, Jeff, and we'll do this together. How about this? Luke and I will give the first part. You give the second part. Go Army!
Go Army!
Beat Navy! Beat Navy!
Go. That's right. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for doing this, and you stay safe and your family as well. We'll see you down the road, my friend.
All right, guys. Thanks. Beat Navy.
Bet.
So that was Army football head coach Jeff Monken. Great talking to him. He's got a lot of great things to say. I had the pleasure of meeting him a few years ago before they had played Air Force up in Colorado Springs.
After you met him too.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And that was I'm really glad we could have him on today.
Yeah, and you when they played Eastern Michigan, I want to say a couple of years ago, you came to the game with a buddy of yours. And I think I had my entourage with me. I had like 8 people at that game.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
He's a great man, and just a hardworking guy. I love when you asked him about getting that call and the detail he went into about what it means to be the coach there, and it's incredible. I have goosebumps just talking about it.
Yeah.
And listening to Jeff, and I've heard him talk about that over and over all the years. Yep. I still get goosebumps. He's a great coach, and at Army, they're looking to bounce back from as he said, they were 1-5 in those one-score games last year. Yep. In the previous 2-3 years, they didn't lose many. Right. So the margin for error is slim, but we really appreciate Jeff joining us. He's a good man.
Yeah, it definitely is. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. This is episode 14 of the No Holding Back podcast. Thank you for watching and listening. Thank you for all your support. We appreciate it. Make sure to stay safe, stay healthy, and have a good one.